You want to talk about the 60s? People look at the old photos, the festivals, the colours, and they see an age of innocence. Of love. They see flower crowns. I see the seeds. The seeds of everything that's choking us now. You think this world we're in, this fractured, anxious, shouting match of a world, just appeared out of thin air? No. It was built. It was built with the best of intentions and the worst of ideas. I was there. I saw the first bricks being laid. They wanted to change the world. A noble goal. But first, they had to tear the old one down. And they started with a foundation. They started with the family. The nuclear family, they called it, with a sneer. A prison. A patriarchal trap. So they broke it. They celebrated divorce, championed the idea that commitment was a chain. And what did we get? Look around. In the 1960s, about 9% of children lived in single-parent homes. Today, it's nearly 1 in 3. We have generations of young men and women who grew up in fractured homes, with a hole in their heart where a stable family was supposed to be. We have an epidemic of loneliness so vast that we now have government ministers of loneliness. They wanted to free us from the institution of family, and instead, they institutionalized solitude. Then came the gospel of the self. Do your own thing. Find your truth. It sounded so liberating, didn't it? But it was a trick. A sleight of hand. It started as an invitation to be authentic, but it morphed into a declaration that there is no external reality. No objective truth. Only my truth. And if my truth says the world is flat, or that 2 plus 2 is equal to 5, or that my feelings are more important than your rights, then you are a bigot for disagreeing. It's a straight line from a do-your-own thing into a world where a person's most profound identity is a list of pronouns and a collection of grievances. We've raised generations on the idea that the self is sacred, and the result is a world full of people who are masters of their own tiny, imaginary kingdoms, and strangers to their neighbours. It's nihilism wearing a smiley face. And once you've gotten rid of objective truth, it's a very short walk to getting rid of right and wrong. Moral relativism. That was the intellectual currency of the era. Who are you to judge? They'd ask. A profound-sounding question that is, in fact, the most cowardly question a human can ask. Because if you can't judge, you can't discern. If you can't tell the difference between a good idea and a bad one, between virtue and vice, between civilization and barbarism, then you are lost. And that is where we are. A society that has lost its moral compass, where we debate things that should be self-evident and celebrate what we once had the good sense to condemn. We've become so non-judgmental that we are incapable of making the necessary judgments to survive. They told us drugs would expand our consciousness. That psychedelics would open the doors of perception. A shortcut to enlightenment. I saw it firsthand. Friends who went looking for God in a sugar cube and found only permanent psychosis. They normalized it. They made it cool. From glorifying weed and LSD in the 60s to the cocaine-fueled 80s, to today. Now, we have a fentanyl crisis that has killed more Americans than the entire Vietnam War. We have cities where open-air drug use is just part of the landscape. They wanted to escape reality, and they succeeded. They created a world so unbearable that millions more now feel the need to escape it, too. They opened a door, and a demon came through. And who were you supposed to trust? Not the government. Not the military. Not the police. Not your teachers. They taught us a deep, profound distrust of all authority, all institutions. Question everything, they said. And there's a certain wisdom in that. But they forgot the second part, learn how to find the right answers. They dismantled the trust. In the 1960s, trust in the government was around 77%. Now, it's struggling to hit 20. Trust in the media, in science, in medicine, it's all in the gutter. And what rushes into that vacuum? Conspiracy. Paranoia. The idea that nothing is true and everything is a plot. They wanted to break the establishment, and instead, they broke our shared reality. We can't even agree on basic facts anymore. Under free love. Sexual liberation. It was supposed to be a rebellion against puritanical repression. And maybe it was. But what did it become? 50 years later, we've gone from a free love to OnlyFans. From the idea of sex as a beautiful, natural expression to sex as a commodity, a transaction, a form of digital entertainment. We have an entire generation that learned about intimacy from pornography, that sees relationships as disposable hookups. We have delayed marriage, delayed family formation, and a world of young people who are desperately lonely because they've been told that casual, meaningless encounters are a form of freedom. They severed sex from love, from commitment, from family. And now we are all reaping the bitter harvest of that disconnection. And where did the revolutionaries go when the music died? They didn't disappear. They got haircuts, put on tweed jackets, and walked right into our universities. They completed their long march through the institutions. They became the professors, the deans, the curriculum writers. And they began to teach their revolution to our children. They replaced education with indoctrination. They taught our kids what to think, not how to think. They built campuses that are no longer bastions of free inquiry, but ideological factories that produce activists, not scholars. Places where shouting down a speaker you disagree with is called a safety, and where ancient truths are dismissed as a problematic. They even took something as pure as caring for the environment and twisted it into a new religion. It started with Earth Day, with legitimate concerns about smog and polluted rivers. It had to be done. But it became a dogma. A new apocalyptic faith, complete with original sin, humanity itself, and salvation through political action. It's no longer about practical solutions, it's about climate anxiety, apocalyptic rhetoric, and a strange desire to punish humanity for its own existence. They hated the old system. They hated capitalism. They dreamed of dropping out, living on a commune, sharing everything. It was a beautiful dream that never worked, not once, anywhere in history. And that failure created a deep-seated resentment, a nostalgia for socialism and communism that is completely detached from the mountains of corpses those ideologies produced. Now we have a generation that distrusts the very economic engine that has lifted more people out of poverty than any other in human history. And in the end, it all came down to this: identity. The great counterculture movements for civil rights, for women, for gay people, they started from a place of justice, demanding to be treated as equal individuals. But that morphed. It became about the group. It became a new form of tribalism. Your worth was no longer based on your character or your merit, but on what group you belonged to. And the most valuable currency in this new marketplace? Victimhood. It's not about solidarity anymore. It's a competition of grievances. An Olympics of oppression. They replaced the old class struggle with a new, more bitter struggle between identities. So, yes, you're right to question the nostalgia. They tore down the walls. They said they were liberating us. But they forgot to ask what would hold the roof up after the walls were gone. They dismantled the foundations of Western civilization: faith, family, nation, truth itself, and they had nothing to build in their place. And now we are all living in the rubble. Adrift. Alone. Arguing over the dust. They wanted peace and love. A noble sentiment. But peace and love are not the foundation. They are the reward. They are the beautiful things that can grow in a garden that is cultivated with order, discipline, truth, and sacrifice. They forgot that part. And we are paying the price for their forgetting.